Hello, Mrs. Arnold's fifth grade class. My name is Larry Saperstein, and I'm a child actor and performer, and I'm really excited to answer these questions. Alright, so, the first one. What inspired you to do theater? Well, my mother is a music teacher, and my father was an actor when he was younger, so I was brought up in it, and I had watched my mother and father perform, and I kind of wanted to do what they were doing. And I also had friends that were in the industry, and I guess I wanted to be like everyone else. But after I started doing it, I really grew to love it. And do I get nervous when I perform? I did at first, but now that I know what to expect, I find myself getting less nervous. Also, you're less nervous when you have more preparation. So I find that if I prepare a lot, then I am not as nervous for a performance because I know what to expect. I know how the audience will react to certain things. Um, that's why they do previews on Broadway shows and stuff like that. So I really don't get that nervous anymore. I feel more excited and more ready than having nervous energy. Have I ever messed up during a performance? Well, yeah, just like anyone else, you mess up. During professional shows, though, if you say lines incorrectly or mess up your dancing, they'll give you a note and they'll say, you did it wrong, this is what it's supposed to be. And then it's your job to not make that mistake again. So when you're in the professional world, they try to make you be as perfect as possible. But um, in the real world, of course you mess up and you just work around it. It's really not as big of a deal as it seems if you know how to work around it. Alright, have I ever had stage fright? I guess, I've been on stage my entire life, so I know what it's like. So stage fright is not really something that I'm familiar with. I'm not nervous about what people think of me or how people look at me. So I think that's the main reason why people get stage fright, because they're nervous of the opinions that other people will have. So I really don't get stage fright, and certainly not anymore. Yeah, and I'm in a community that's very loving, so I'm not worried about people that would be mean about my acting. All right. Do my friends also do theater? Yes. When you're just like you have friends that do basketball or baseball or dance. You go to a dance class and you make friends there. It's the same with me. Going to auditions, you meet people, and those people you see at all the same auditions. So I wind up, becoming friends with them, and yeah, and then I also have, friends at school that do school shows and music friends. So yeah, so just like anything else, you develop friends within that community. How long have I been in theater? The first show that I ever did, I was 3 years old, and my job was to run on stage and jump into my father's arms. Um, then after that, I started really doing shows, I would say, in second grade. That's when I really had lines and things. Um, and when I was in fifth grade, I did my first professional show. So I've been on stage ever since I was little. Um, and that's, I love it so much. I don't really think about doing anything else. I don't really think about, doing anything else with my life instead of art, I guess. Um, I'm not only in theater, I also do film work. So those two things combined are really what I love to do. So yeah. Um, what kind of shows do I do? Musicals or plays? I have done both. I've been in less plays than musicals because, at school and stuff they don't do musicals. They don't do, sorry. At school they don't do plays. They do musicals. Um, so I've been in maybe 3 or 4 plays, um, and the rest have been musicals. And that's the next question. I've done 17 different shows in my 15 years of life. And, you think that might not be a lot, but when you think about some Broadway actors are in shows for 10 years, and if you count that as one show, so that same kind of thing happened with me. I would be in a show for maybe 6 months, and then, it's difficult to get into shows, especially in the acting world, in the industry. So, um, so sometimes you do a show for 6 months, rehearsals and performances, and then you don't do a show for another 8 months. So that's how that works. So 17 for 15 years is pretty good, and especially um, I didn't start until I was 3, so it's not 15 years, it's 12 years. Um, so yeah, I would say 17 is a pretty good amount for now, and I'm always doing more. I'm always working more. So that number changes all the time. What school do I go to? I go to Islip High School here on Long Island in New York, and um, the arts program there is really great. And I'm in the shows there, and then I go. It's only an hour away from New York City, so I drive or take the train to New York City, and that's where I do other shows and auditions. I'm in New York City all the time. Do I love my career? Yeah, of course I do. I one of my things, because of my acting, I have kind of told myself that whatever I do, if I stay with acting or if I decide to do filmmaking, I've been thinking a lot about computer software coding. But the one thing I said is that whatever I do, I want to make sure that I love it. So I think no matter what I'm doing, that my answer for that question will always be yes. But in the acting world, of course, I love it. I love the people. I love the art form. I love the audience. I love the energy, and I just love being there. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. You should really try it because there's really nothing like it in the world, and it's amazing. Do I get big parts? Well, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I can't control that. Um, but I've had big parts in my lifetime. I played Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast just last year. That was just at my school, but in the professional world, I've had parts with lines. I haven't just been in the ensemble. In the Goldfish commercial, if you would consider that a big part, I was in a Goldfish commercial, and I didn't have any lines, but my face was there, and I was doing a little giggle. Um, so if you would consider that a big part, so I have had big parts in my lifetime. Um, but just being a small part is not bad either. Sometimes it's more fun to be a small part because you have more things to do. You can be Sometimes people who play the small roles have to be 5 different characters. So sometimes it's more of a test to your acting than if you were just one character in a show. Um, yeah, so both have their challenges and both are equally as amazing. Of all the shows I have been in, which one is my favorite? That is a difficult question. I don't think it's fair to choose which one is my favorite. Every show has good things and bad things about it. Um, I was in Beauty and the Beast a few times, but when I played Lumiere, I really loved that. I loved, the people in my school. Um, I was in Oliver at one of the professional theaters on Long Island, and that was my first professional experience. So I loved that show for that. The first show that I did in New York City, I love that. So even if sometimes the writing is not as good, or sometimes the cast is not as good, but there are always good things and bad things about a production. I've never had a production that I hated, going. So it's always good, I guess. I always love doing things. So it's like choosing between who's a favorite child. There's never really a favorite, and there's never a least favorite either. What shows have I done? Well, my first show that I did when I was running on stage into my father's arms, that was called Working. I was in Miracle on 34th Street. I did that twice. A lot of shows I did twice. I did Beauty and the Beast 2 times. One time I played Chip, and one time I played Lumiere. I was in Fiddler on the Roof twice. I was in Oliver twice. Yeah, I was in The Music Man. Many of those shows. Right now I'm doing Footloose at school. I was in a show called The Shadow Box, which is a straight play. And it was a Pulitzer Prize winning. You should look it up. It's a little sad, but it's a great show. Another show called Spring's Awakening, which is also a great show, but it's a little old. The subject matter is a little mature, but when you guys get older, you should definitely look up some of those shows that are really heavy but have great writing, and the cast for those were amazing. And yeah, so I've done a big variety of shows. Very happy, very sad, musical numbers, straight plays. Loved every minute of it. How large is the audiences when I perform? Well, that depends on what you call the house. The house is where the audience sits. So some houses are bigger than other houses. When you're in the city and you're performing in an off-Broadway theater, sometimes the houses can seat 1,000 people. When you're at school, they seat 500 people. And of course, the house is not always full. There aren't, you're not sold out for every show. So the audiences can vary. They can vary by a lot, depending on what show you do, what shows I've done. I've performed in theaters with, an orchestra, a mezzanine, and a balcony. And I've performed in theaters with just one little 5 rows of seats. So it varies. What instruments do I play? Well, I consider singing an instrument. I consider the voice an instrument. So don't let anyone ever tell you that singing is not an instrument, because I think it is an instrument. It requires just as much practice as other instruments. And I also play the bass. I play the string bass, the double bass, and the electric bass. And I'm in the school jazz band and the school orchestra and stuff like that. So, and that's something else that I love. I kind of started that first. That was really my stepping into the music world instead of just acting. And I love that too. How did I decide to do musical theater? Well, when I decided to do theater, it was really just musical theater. I think that musical theater is a lot more popular. Musical theater is a lot more popular than regular plays, especially now. So I've done a lot more musical theater just because that's what's accessible. But yeah, I mean, it really wasn't a decision. I wouldn't decide against it, but I think, the first show that I ever did was a musical, and I did a lot more. I've done a lot more musicals than plays, and I can sing and I can dance, so it's kind of natural that I would choose that. And it's not the only thing that I choose. I also love movies and I love plays. But yeah, because I could sing and because I could dance, the musical theater was a good fit, I guess. Where have I traveled while performing? Well, most of the time I'm in New York City, but once I did get the chance to travel to the West Coast. I went to Santa Barbara, California, and then I went to Spokane, Washington, and we were going to go to Vancouver, but that got canceled because the theater there was a big storm in Vancouver and the theater started to flood, so they had to cancel that. But I got to travel to California, and that was as of now, that's the only time I've ever been to the West Coast. So that was really great. And Santa Barbara was beautiful, and Spokane was fun because it was inside of a casino and it was all inclusive. So we didn't leave. We didn't go outside for 4 days because we could just get all the food there, and there were places to walk around, and there was a pool all inside. So that was a really cool place too. How much practice time do I put in at home? Well, it depends. If I'm working towards something, I put in more practice time than if I don't have anything coming up. If I have lines to memorize, um, obviously I have to put in more effort than if I don't have lines to memorize because there's nothing to practice. But yeah, so usually the thing is, my mom always says 10 minutes a day. You should practice 10 minutes a day every day. Um, and then if I'm working towards something, it's usually more than 10 minutes a day. Usually a half hour to an hour, um, depending on how much work I think I need. Do I want to be a director? Well, I would say that I already am a director. If you've seen any of my YouTube videos, all of that is directed and edited by me. I'm also working with another girl here on Long Island who wants to be a reporter and is working on interviewing artists and different people. So, and I would consider myself directing those videos because I stand behind the camera and I film them, and I tell people where to sit and I tell people what to say, and then I come home and I edit them and put them all on the internet. So I would consider myself as a director already, but yes, I do love directing. I think my visions, I really think that I have good visions, artistic visions, and I think that in the future, once I gain enough, a big enough name and people respect me more, I guess, I will be a better director than what I am now. But directing is something that I think is really cool and something that is pretty useful, and I enjoy it. And so those are all your questions. So thank you, Mrs. Arnold's fifth grade class. I really loved answering your questions. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send me some messages. I will be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And thank you for sending these. I really loved them. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye!